Hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve one illustration. This illustration is associated with the chapter that is creating ledgers. Illustration number 4 is our target. Right now what you are looking at is raw data which is provided by your organization, or as a student it is provided in the book. This is raw data in simple English. As an accountant, when you will see it, it might be possible you will be receiving this data through vouchers, through receipts. And as an accountant, what you will do, you will receive it, will convert into usable information. So there are 4 basic targets of today's work. The very first thing which you will do would be converting that raw data into journal entries, and then you will convert those journal entries into ledgers, and final step would be conversion of these ledgers into your trial balance. So here is our target which we would be completing: trial balance, third step, ledgers, and journal chapter has already been completed. I hope right now that you know the rules, how to do debit and how to do credit, for which rules were also being discussed in previous illustrations as well. There are 4 factors: assets, expenses, liabilities, incomes. Asset and expenses are fixed for debit side, liabilities and income are fixed for the credit side. So you can see the view of question. The length of the question should be in your mind. So if you have stamina, if you are willing to get skillful, if you are willing to get knowledge, then you must have a spare time with which each and everything would be discussed. And I'm promising you, if you will give time, it would be very easy for you to make journal entries, to make ledgers, and to make trial balance. It is backbone of the accounting. If someone knows how to make journal, if someone knows how to make ledgers, if someone knows how to make trial balance, believe you me, almost 70% working of any chapter, directly or indirectly, will be associated with these 3 things. If you will give time, if you will spare some of your energy, and you will be attentive to today's work, I am very hopeful your skill will definitely be developed. Right now our first target is to make journal entries. Here question is also pointing out to make it journal, and then you can see question is saying to post these journal entries into ledger, and finally it is being asked to prepare trial balance. Over here one word is hidden in the peg. So 3 major aspects of this question: journal, ledger, and trial balance. So we are going to start journal. The very first entry is related to January 1. What should be your step? Put date first. It's very important. Though we are with accounting, and in accounting normally several a school of thoughts, several people might be thinking that it's the working with the numbers only. But kindly make your mind accessories like date, lines, its headings, presentation is more important. Either you are working in any institution, either you are an employee, or you are a student. In all categories of accountant, it is the integral part of accountancy to present well. On January 1, let's see what happened. Started business with cash. This is the only entry. Proprietor had given cash and invested in the business, started business with cash. Here I would like to make you understood that we are working for business. We are not working for the businessman. Kindly clarify your mind. We are not working for businessman. We are working for the business. Why it is important to discuss right now? Because whenever you will see if asset is increasing or decreasing, if expense is increasing or decreasing, if liability is increasing or decreasing, that would be with the reference of business, not with the reference of businessman. We are not personal employee of businessman. We are actually employee of business. Or as an accountant, or as a student, you will be focusing upon the business, with which you will be able to come to know that what kind of transaction it is. Like this, proprietor had provided cash and invested into the business. When you will see as a businessman, amount is going out, but as business, when you will focus on business, amount is coming in, exactly opposite. So please keep it in mind, we are not working according to businessman, we are working according to business point of view. So cash is coming in, mean cash in hand is increasing, cash in hand is your asset, asset is increasing, increase in asset should be debited, so you will debit cash as it was an asset, or due to increase in asset, cash is debited. Amount which is provided by proprietor is called capital, and capital is accountable. That means business will answer to the proprietor where that capital is, how much amount you have spent, how much is in balance. So it is liability of the business. Liability should be credited, so you will mention capital on credit side as its capital, as its liability. January 1st amount is 2 lakh rupees. So you are going to post 2 lakh rupees on debit side, and same amount you will be posting on credit side as well. All right, this way you have completed your first entry January 1, and now you are going to see what is second entry saying. This is your second entry, opened bank account. So what you are doing, you have opened a bank account. How you will open the bank account? By depositing cash. So 1 lakh rupees has deposited in your bank account, and with which you have opened your bank account. When you will open your bank account means cash will be going out. Cash is your asset, cash in hand is decreasing, decrease in cash in hand means decrease in asset, decrease in asset should be credited, so you will mention cash on credit side as cash is going out. And where this cash is going? Into the bank. Amount present in your bank account in this way would be increased. Bank account is your asset, asset is increasing, increase in asset should be debited, so you will mention bank account on debit side. It was for January 2nd, put date January 2nd, we were supposed to write date first. How much amount is deposited in the bank? That is 1 lakh rupees. So put 1 lakh in debit side, and same amount you are supposed to write on credit side. This way your first entry has been completed for January 2, second entry. And now let's see what is in your third entry. It is saying purchase furniture for cash. So next entry is you are buying furniture. When you first, we should be putting the date. Purchase furniture, date is 3rd. Put here January 3rd. On January 3rd, what you have done? Purchase furniture. What is coming in? Furniture. Furniture is your asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be credited, should be debited. So furniture would be written on debit side. While purchasing furniture, what will be going out? Your cash, means cash in hand is decreasing. Decrease in cash in hand means decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be credited, so you will mention cash on credit side. So furniture is coming in, cash is going out. How much amount of furniture you have purchased? That is 10,000. So write down 10,000 on debit side, and same amount you will be putting on your credit side. This way your entry for furniture has been completed January 3rd. January 4 come purchase goods for cash. You are buying goods for cash, it means goods are coming in, goods are your near assets, assets are increasing, increase in assets should be mentioned on debit side, so you were supposed to write goods over here. But as we know that in accounting we do not write goods, in place of goods we write working. What working we are doing? That's purchase, so you will write purchase. Goods were written just for the reference, as we were willing to know what is coming in. Now we have decided that goods will be replaced by purchase. Goods now is unnecessary to be written over here, you can erase it. You have purchased goods, and you have purchased these goods for purchase these goods for cash. Goods purchased for cash, we are doing fourth entry. Okay, so when you are buying goods, what will be going out? Cash would be paid, mean your cash in hand would be decreased. Decrease in cash in hand means decrease in asset, which should be credited. So you will mention cash on credit side. This was for January 4. We should be writing date first. January 4, you have purchased goods for cash. How much amount you have paid? That is 30,000. So you are in need to put 30,000 on debit side, and same amount you are supposed to write on your credit side as well. Rule is very simple, credit and debit side will always be equal. January 4 completed. Now we will see what January 5th is saying. Purchase goods from Karachi store worth rupees 40,000 on credit basis. Now if let's say this credit basis was not present over here, just name has been mentioned and cash is not being mentioned, so it was automatically understood that goods are, or the transaction is on credit. Keep it in mind. So we are purchasing goods from Karachi on credit. As you are buying goods means goods are coming in. Goods are your near asset. Assets are increasing. Increase in assets should be mentioned on debit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But as you know that, please excuse me, goods to be written over here. And we were supposed to write date at this place. After January 4, we have January 5. Put date over here as January 5. So we were supposed to write goods over here, but in accounting, as you know that we do not write goods in place of goods, we write working. What working we are doing? We are buying, so you will be mentioning it's a purchase. Goods were written. Just for the reference, in accounting we do not write goods. Now it is unneeded to be here. You can erase it. So goods were purchased. You have mentioned it on debit side. All right, and now you see you have purchased these goods on credit. Purchase goods from Karachi and clearly mentioned it is on credit basis. So you have bought these goods on credit. When you are buying goods and not paying, what will happen? It would become your liability, and Karachi store is the person to whom amount is still payable. Still payable mean it is liability. Liability should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention Karachi store. I think the name is, yes, Karachi store. We have a little less space, so we will mention Karachi.s only. Why you are mentioning on credit side? Because Karachi store is our account payable. Account payable means liability. Liability should be mentioned on credit side. So you have written name of Karachi as an account payable due to liability on credit side. January 5th entry. And now see how much amount of goods you have purchased. That's 40,000. So put 40,000 on debit side and same amount you are going to put on your credit side. January 5th entry is completed. Now next entry after January 5th is January 7. Put date first. Thankfully we remember to write date first. January 7, let's see what that entry is saying. Sold goods for cash. Next entry is sold goods for cash. When you are selling something, you receive cash, mean your cash in hand would be increased. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So mention cash on debit side. You are selling goods. It means goods are going out. Goods are your near asset. That means asset is decreasing as you are selling them. As decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But in accounting, as you know, we do not write goods in accounting. In place of goods, we write working. What working here we are doing? That is sale. So mention sale. Goods were written just for the reference. Now it is unneeded to be written over here. You can erase it. So you are receiving cash and selling goods. Cash is coming in, goods are going out. In place of goods, working was sales. January 7 entry. Let's see how much amount of 7th entry. It is 26,000. So you are going to put 26,000 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on your credit side. This way January 7th entry is completed. Now let's see what is next. It is January 8. Put date first, January 8. Now let's see what January 8 is saying. Sold goods to Rafiq. Here we have January 8, sold goods to Rafiq for rupees 20,000. Alright, cash is not mentioned over here. That is what I was telling you in previous entry. Cash is not mentioned and Rafiq, the name is mentioned. So it would be indirectly understood that it's not cash sales. You are selling your goods to Rafiq on credit. When you are selling goods, it means goods are going out. Goods are your near asset. Asset is decreasing asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But in accounting, we do not write goods in place of goods. You write working. What working we are doing? We are selling. So you will mention sales over here. Goods now is unnecessary to be written over here. You can erase it. Goods were sold for what? You are selling your goods for as it was earlier mentioned that you are selling your goods on credit. Cash is not mentioned over here. Rafiq is the person to whom goods were sold. Amount was receivable from Rafiq. Rafiq is your account receivable, which is asset. Asset is increasing, which should be mentioned on debit side. So Rafiq name would be mentioned on debit side as they are account receivable and account receivables are asset. This is the reason you are mentioning Rafiq's name on debit side. January 8th entry you have completed. Amount was 20,000. So put 20,000 on debit side and same amount you are supposed to write on credit side. So January 8 is completed. Now see what January 9 is saying. Payment made to Karachi store by check. So you have paid to Karachi store by check January 9th. First we will put date January 9th. Let's see where Karachi was. You have purchased goods from Karachi for worth rupees 40,000. Now it was your account payable. You were liable to pay the amount and here you are paying the amount. In what shape you are paying? Payment made to Karachi store by check. No matter whatever the source is, but you are paying. Account payable Karachi was your liability. You are now paying. It means he is no more your account payable, no more your liability. Liability decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So name of Karachi you are supposed to write on debit side, though they were your account payable. And account payables were supposed to mention on credit side as a liability. But since your liability has been paid out, it's no more your liability. Liability decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So that is why your liability is on debit side. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. Keep in your mind. You are paying Karachi through check. Cash is not going out. You are paying check. When you will give this check to Karachi, what Karachi will do, he will go to your bank account, will present that check and will withdraw amount from your bank account. Amount present in bank would be decreased. Bank account is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention your name of bank account on credit side as it is decreasing. How much amount you are paying to Karachi? It is 30,000. Though he was liable to pay more, but you were liable to pay more as amount of 40,000 goods have been purchased from Karachi. Right now you are partially paying just 30,000 and same amount you will be writing on your credit side as well. This way January 9th entry has been completed. Now let's see what is next. January 9th, after we have January 11, put date first. Here we have January 11. Now what January 11 is saying, check received from Rafiq and paid into the bank. This is our entry. Check received from Rafiq at first stage and on same date you are paying that check into the bank. Ultimately what is happening? You are paying the check into the bank. Which check? the check which you have received from Rafiq. Rafiq was present in initial entries. Yes, Rafiq was present in initial entries. You were supposed to receive 22,000 from Rafiq, but right now Rafiq is paying less than 22,000. Here you can see that Rafiq is paying only 16,000 and that amount is paid into the bank. So kindly understand, you are receiving check from Rafiq and that check immediately deposited into the bank. Eventually amount present in your bank account would be increased, means your asset would be increased. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention name of bank on debit side because your asset is being increased. How this asset has been increased? This was Rafiq who was your account receivable. You have received check from Rafiq. It means amount is no more receivable from Rafiq. He was your asset. When he is no more your account receivable, means he is no more your asset. Asset is decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention name of Rafiq on credit side. Although he was your account receivable, account receivables are asset, assets place is debit, but since asset is decreasing, that is why you are mentioning name of Rafiq on credit side. How much amount of check was? Here it has been mentioned 16,000 and that check was paid into the bank. So you will put 16,000 in front of bank and as eventually amount in bank account would be increased up till 60,000 and same amount you will be writing on your credit side, which is showing that our account receivable has been decreased up to 16,000. January 11 is completed. Next to January 11 is January 14. Come over here and write down January 14 over here. What 14th entry is saying? Goods returned to Karachi. 14th entry, goods returned to Karachi. We have purchased goods from Karachi. Here you can see that purchased goods from Karachi. Then some of the goods, some of the amount was being paid to Karachi and now you are returning goods to Karachi. It is very important to understand this sequence because while making ledger, this would be very helpful, very workable when you will know the history of the transaction. So right now what you are doing, goods are returning to Karachi. As you are returning goods, it means goods are going out. Goods are your near asset, mean asset is going out, asset decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods on credit side due to decrease. As you understand that goods are not written in accounting, in place of goods we write working. What working we are doing? We are returning. So you will write return. Goods are returning from to the person from whom you have bought. It means goods are going out. So this is your return out. Goods were written just to give the reference. Now we have completed our entry. Goods right now is unnecessary to be written over here. You can erase it. Return out. To whom you have returned these goods? The person to whom you are returning those goods, January 14. That store name is Karachi store. Karachi store was the person from whom you have purchased goods. So Karachi was your account payable. Since you are returning good, it means amount now after returning is not payable. Not payable means account payable is decreasing, account payable liability. Liability is decreasing, decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. That is why you are writing your account payable on debit side due to decrease in liability. How much worth of goods we are returning in entry number 14? That is 3,000. So put 3,000 on debit side and same amount you are supposed to write on credit side. In this way you have completed your entry number 14. Now let's see what is next for us. That is entry number 16, January 16. Put date first, January 16. Now let's see January 16. Goods returned by Rafiq. 16 is saying goods returned by Rafiq. Here it was Rafiq and here it was Rafiq. On 8th of January, you have sold goods to Rafiq. On 11, you have received some of the amount. And on 16, goods are returned by Rafiq. So goods are coming in. You have sold these goods to Rafiq. Here you can see. And he didn't like those goods and returned to you. Goods are coming in. Goods are your near asset. Asset are increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So goods were supposed to be written on debit side. In accounting, we do not write goods. Instead of goods, you write working. What working we are doing? That is returning. Goods are being returned. So you will write here return. Since goods are coming in, it would be called return in. Goods were written just for the reference. It is unnecessary now to be written over here. You can erase it. From whom these commodities are returning? We have sold goods to Rafiq. Rafiq was our account receivable and he had returned goods and we have received goods. When he is returning goods, it means amount is now after return will not be receivable. If amount is not receivable, it means he is no more account receivable. Account receivable are asset. Assets are decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention Rafiq's name on credit side as they are account receivable. In spite of this fact that account receivable are asset, assets place is debit, but after returning he is no more asset. Due to decrease in asset, you are mentioning Rafiq's name on credit side. January 16th. How much of worth of goods are returned? It was entry number 16. Rafiq had returned of worth rupees 2000. So you will be writing 2000 on debit side. And same amount you are supposed to write on credit side as well. Entry number 16 is completed. Now we will be focusing for the next entry. And what is that? After 16 we have 17. Put date first. January 17 will be written in date column. 17 is saying cash paid to Karachi. Cash paid to Karachi 6800 in full settlement of their account. Here what I was saying, it was very important for you to note down the history. 6800 in full settlement, what you are doing? You are paying cash to Karachi. Alright. When you are paying cash, that means cash is going out, your cash in hand is decreasing. Decrease in cash means decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention name of cash on credit side, first thing first. And to whom you are paying this cash? Karachi, it has been mentioned in our entry number 17. Cash paid to Karachi, entry number 17. So Karachi was your account payable. You were liable to pay to Karachi. So from Karachi, what you have done? Here you have purchased goods from Karachi. Karachi was your account payable. You were liable to pay amount to Karachi. Now you are paying to Karachi. It means after payment he is no more your account payable, no more your liability. Liability would be decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention name of Karachi on debit side. Though they were account payable, liability, but after payment liability decrease. Decrease in liability should be on debit side. So you have written Karachi on debit side. How much amount you are paying to Karachi? It has been mentioned over here 6800, but in full settlement. First of all, you will write 6800 over here. This is what the amount you are paying. Now you are responsible to see how much amount you were liable to pay. You need to know full settlement. For that purpose, you will go upside and will see all the entries of Karachi. So this is first entry of Karachi, 40,000 of goods you have purchased. Write down over here. So total commodities you have purchased were 40,000. Go again. Here you have seen entry number 9. You have paid 30,000. So total commodities you have purchased worth rupees 40,000 and you have paid 30,000 in cash. It means liability has been decreased. Next entry is January 14 where you have returned goods. Now you are not liable after returning of goods. It means you are not liable to pay 3,000 as well. Subtract 3,000 as well. So this was your full settlement. 7,000 we have calculated is actually the full settlement. That means this was the total amount you were liable to pay. So total amount would be written in front of Karachi. What we have seen, total amounts of goods purchased were 40,000, 30,000 of cash paid, 3,000 goods were returned. So remaining balance was 7,000. 7,000 you were liable to pay. But actually you have paid only 6,800. So who will decide to pay less? It is actually your creditor will decide if he will permit. If he will allow, then this is the only option available. Then you will be able to pay less. As they are permitting, we are in comfortable situation as we are receiving it. The concession has been given by Karachi and concession is received by us, so it is favorable for us, it is income for us. Income should be mentioned on credit side, so you will write it as discount. But which discount? You have received discount. Amount of discount is not mentioned, one thing. And secondly, it has not been mentioned that where is discount. Cash paid to Karachi 6,800 full settlement, and discount is not mentioned. So indirectly we have understood if total amount payable was 7,000 while we are paying only 6,800, it means we have received some discount. How much discount? It's easy to understand that total amount was 7,000 and we are paying 6,800. It means the remaining amount is the discount which is given by Karachi. Second way to calculate it is debit and credit side would always be equal. On debit side 7,000, so you were in need to balance it. So you will see 6,800 is written in the book. Remaining amount would be 200. In this way you can equalize debit and credit side. So there are two ways to calculate the discount. Now let's see what January 20 is next entry. Write down date first. Let's see what January 20 is saying. Cash received from Rafiq 39 in full settlement. Again the same procedure, we must have history of Rafiq. We are receiving cash from Rafiq. When you are receiving, it means cash is coming in, cash is your asset, cash in hand is increasing, asset is increasing, increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side, so you are supposed to write cash on debit side. From whom you are receiving this cash? That person was Rafiq. Here you can see Rafiq was account receivable. So we have received some amount from Rafiq. Rafiq was account receivable. After receiving amount from him, he is no more your account receivable, no more asset, decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will write name of Rafiq on credit side in spite of the fact that he was your account receivable, which are asset. Asset should be mentioned on debit side. But after receiving amount, he is no more asset. Asset is decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you have written name of Rafiq on credit side. Now let's see how much amount you are receiving from Rafiq. Here it is clearly mentioned that cash which you are receiving is 3,900. So put 3,900 in front of cash. And the next word is very important. You are receiving cash from Rafiq in full settlement. How much total amount was receivable? For that purpose, you will have to go where? You will have to see the history of Rafiq and we'll check it out how much amount was receivable. Go to above side. This is your first entry. You had sold some of the goods to Rafiq for 22,000. After that, a partial amount you have received from him 16,000, and then again Rafiq is coming. You have received goods from Rafiq. That means goods were returned by Rafiq, and we have received those returned 2,000. Now you will be able to know how much amount was receivable from Rafiq. So we will go to the history. The first amount is here, January 8. You can see that January 8 is saying total amount receivable from Rafiq was 22,000. After which, see January 11. Here you can see January 11. Some of the amount we have already received, that is 16,000, and we are actually calculating how much amount is still receivable. Out of 22,000, 16,000 of amount has already been received. Next is January 16, where he had returned some of the goods for which amount would not be received. So 2,000 worth of goods had been returned. Remaining amount will show you that this is the amount which was receivable from Rafi. While actually on real ground you have received just 3900. How is it possible? Total amount was receivable, full settlement was 4000, and you have received 3900. Who will decide that a less amount can be received? It is actually we were the person who will decide that amount can be received less, and we will permit. When you will permit concession, it means you are providing permission, you are providing concession. It is unfavorable for you. Unfavorable means it is expense for you to permit someone to pay less. This way you will receive less. It would be considered your expense when you are permitting to pay less. That means you are giving someone discount. It would be discount, but which discount? Discount allowed as an expense. Here when you will go to entry number 20, you will see that in entry number 20 nowhere discount is mentioned, and amount of discount is also not being mentioned over here. So how will you calculate the amount of discount? Total amount which was receivable was 4000 and actual amount received was 3900. So how much discount is given? You will subtract subtract amount of credit side, and you will subtract from amount of credit side the amount which you have actually received. So received amount would be subtracted from total amount. In this way you come to know that 100 rupees was the discount which you have allowed to Rafiq. This way your entry number 20 has also been completed. Mark it as it has been done by putting a closing line after it. January 20 entry is completed. Now we will see what is the next entry number. After 20 we have 22, so put January 22 over here. Let's see what January 22 is saying. Goods lost by fire. Here you can see goods are being lost by fire. When goods are lost, it means it is your unfavorable situation. It's an expense. When something is lost, expense should be mentioned on debit side, so you will mention lost by fire on debit side. Now when goods are lost by fire, that means goods you are losing, goods are decreasing. Indirectly what you will understand, that goods were purchased once. When those goods caught fire, number of units of goods would be decreased. It means indirectly you will understand those goods were, there is decrease in number of goods you have purchased. I will repeat the same thing. When goods are lost by fire, that means goods you have purchased on first step, after getting fire the number of goods purchased would be decreased. Ultimately or indirectly you will consider that amount of goods purchased have been decreased. When you were buying goods, you have mentioned the word purchase on debit side. Here you have seen, and since now goods are lost by fire, it means we will indirectly understand that goods which were purchased has been decreased. When purchase, we debited purchase, and now the amount of goods purchased has been decreasing. Decrease mean it is your decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side, so you will mention name of purchase on credit side just because of the reason like goods are decreasing. Since you are not selling your goods, you cannot mention the word sale, as due to sale goods should be whenever you will see goods are decreasing, there is only one reason, when you are selling it. But here there is a special case, goods are decreased due to loss by fire. So what you will indirectly understand, that goods were not bought. You will be supposing it, you will be assuming it just to consider that loss. Now let's see how much worth of goods has been lost by fire. This is 4000, so put 4000 on debit side, and you are now need to put same amount on credit side as well. This way your entry number 22 is completed. Mark it as it has been done by putting a closing line over here. After 22, let's see what is next. We have 24. Put date over here, January 24. Now see what is January 4 is saying. Goods taken away by the proprietor for his personal use. Goods is taken by the proprietor for his personal use. Again, goods are going out, goods are your near asset, asset is decreasing. But goods are decreased due to only one reason, when we will sell them. Here goods are not being sold. It means it is given to the proprietor, or proprietor had taken those goods for his personal use. Indirectly again we will assume that amounts of goods purchased had been decreased, means purchasing has been decreased. When you had bought goods, you had mentioned purchase on debit side, that means goods were increasing. Now due to decrease in purchase, you will mention name of purchase on credit side. Here one problem has been solved. Who had taken these goods? Proprietor. When proprietor will withdraw any amount or good from the business, that is called drawings. So drawings would be mentioned on debit side. Why we are mentioning it on debit side? As you know, in first entry we have written capital on credit side. Whatever will be coming into the business is liability of the business. If proprietor is going to draw goods or cash from the business, means our liability is decreasing. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So drawings is decrease in liability. That is why we are writing drawings on debit side. January 24. Let's see how much worth of goods has been drawn by the proprietor. These are 3000. So put 3000 on debit side, and you are supposed to write same amount on credit side as well. January 24th entry is completed. Put a closing line to mention that entry has been completed. After 24 we have entry number 26. Put date first, January 26. Let's see what January 26 is saying. Purchase a typewriter and paid by a check. Purchase typewriter, paid by a check. Here we have purchased a typewriter. When you are buying typewriter, typewriter is coming in, which is your asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will write typewriter on debit side. How you are buying this typewriter? Purchased typewriter and paid by check. You are paying check. The person from whom you are buying this typewriter, you will issue a check and will provide that check to him. That seller will go to your bank, will present that check, will withdraw amount from the bank. Amount present in bank would be decreased, which is your asset. That means asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention your bank account on credit side, as your amount present in bank account has been decreased. Asset is decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So bank is written on credit side. How much amount you are paying? Purchase typewriter, amount of typewriter is 10,000. So amount of check is 10,000. You will mention 10,000 in front of bank, and same amount you are supposed to write on debit side as well. This way your entry of 26 is completed. Put a line over here, closing line, to mention that entry is completed. After 26 we have 28. Put date over here, January 28. And what January 28 is saying? Goods distributed as free samples. Goods distributed as free sample. It means again goods are going out, but nothing is coming in. This is your third case. Goods are going out, nothing is coming in. Goods are going out, nothing is coming in. When goods are lost by fire, that means goods have been decreased, but you haven't received anything. Here, when proprietor is taking goods, mean goods are decreasing, but nothing you will receive from your proprietor. And this is third chance. January 28 is saying the same thing. Goods distributed as free sample. Again goods are going out, goods are not selling. The sale is the only thing when goods are going out. Again in this case goods are going out, but we are not selling it. It means we will indirectly understand that our number of goods purchased has been decreased. When we had purchased goods, that was mentioned on the debit side. Since now here goods purchased are decreasing, so you will mention on the opposite side. That is why you will write purchase on credit side. All right, so goods I have given for the free sample. Obviously it's an expense should be mentioned on debit side, so free sampling as an expense would be written on debit side. Let's see for January 8 how much worth of goods have been given as free sample. It is 4,000, so you are going to write 4,000 on debit side, and same amount you are supposed to write on credit side. This way January 8 is completed. Mark it as it has been done by just putting a closing line. After 28 we have 31, and what 31 is saying, paid salaries 6,000 and rent 4,000 by checks. So these are two different things. You have paid rent and you have paid salaries, and both expenses are paid by check. So paid salaries we will do first, but put date. Okay, you are paying salaries by check. You are paying the person to whom you are paying those salaries by check. You will issue a check on his name. He will go to your bank, will present that check, will withdraw amount from the bank. Amount present in bank account would be decreased. Decrease in bank account mean decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side, so you will mention name of bank on credit side. To whom you have given this check, the person you were liable to pay salaries. He is your employee. Salary is an expense. Expense should be mentioned on debit side, so you will write salaries on debit side as an expense. Let's see how much worth of salaries you had paid. Salaries were 6,000 mentioned over here, so 6,000 would be written on debit side, and same amount you are supposed to write on your credit side as well. This way you have completed your 31st entry, but half part it is. Put a line to close it. Then again you will have January 31 by second part, so you may write over here it's B part. All right, so what January 31 B is saying, let's see. B part is saying rent paid by check. We have already seen it. Rent is paid by check. When you will pay rent by check, the person to whom you were liable to pay rent, you will issue a check on his name. He will go to your bank account, will present that check. Amount would be drawn from the bank. It means amount present in your bank account would be decreased. It means asset would be decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side, so you will mention your bank account on credit side. Though your bank account is asset were supposed to be written on debit side. Why you are writing bank on credit side? Because due to payment through check, amount in bank would be decreased, your asset is decreasing. This is the reason you have mentioned bank on credit side. Secondly, you are paying this check for the purpose of rent. Rent was paid through check. Rent is an expense. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side. That is why you are writing name of rent on debit side. Entry has been completed. Mark it as it has been done. Now let's see how much of rent is being paid. Last entry you have seen 4,000, so you will be putting 4,000 in front of rent on debit side, and same amount you are supposed to write on credit side. This way your entry number 31 is completed, and in other way your journal entries have been completed. Half part we have completed. You can see from where we have started our work. So many journal entries, step by step we have seen and completed. And on January 31 all of the entries present in your question for journal have been completed, and this way half part we have ended out. The next step is to put these journal entries into ledger. You may take a short break and we will come back and we'll start posting journal entries into the ledger.